Hey, what's up everybody? Today we're going to be doing 5 beginner tips on reverb and delay to help you get a deeper sound and expand the vocals and or beat, whichever you're using, to make a better sound in your mix. Alright, so tip number 1 is to start with subtle settings. When applying reverb and delay to vocals, it's important to begin with subtle settings. Too much can overwhelm the vocals and make them sound distant or muddy. Aim for a balance where the effects complement the vocals and or instrument without overshadowing the other parts of the mix. And we'll show you right here. Alright, so we have an example right here with a reverb starting with subtle settings and then slowly increasing them to add more depth to the sound and while still maintaining a good mix. So right here I have it on my insert, a short reverb with the GW voice centric mono from Waves. This is from Greg Wells. This is just like a typical reverb. You can use any reverb that comes stock with your DAW. So just go ahead and turn your reverb on this to the desired effect. For me, I have it all the way because I'm going to then show and then send the insert to slowly increase the reverb on the track. So here we go. I have it set up already. This is without any reverb.
You never did this before, girl. I know that you're lying. You're lying.
So that's without reverb. And now what I like to do sometimes is hear it with all the reverb that I like and then work backwards. But you can also do, the main part of this tip is to have it sit well in the mix. So if it works better for you to start from nothing and then
you never did this before, girl. I know that you're lying.
It's a subtle sound, but it adds a little bit more depth to it. And you can, just keep pushing it until it sounds right. Or you can work backwards like this, where it's all the way up.
You never did this before, girl. I know that you're lying.
And then you're working backwards and you can still hear it from the mix. Sometimes that's what I like to hear because I'm like, all right, I like that effect. I want it to sit a lot lower, but let me hear what it sounds like all the way to make sure I really like it. And then I push back. All right, on to the next tip. Alright, tip number 2 is to use reverb and delay for depth and space. We added reverb on before, but we didn't hear how it sounded with both reverb and delay to add more depth and space. That's what we're going to do right over here. Alright, so here we already added reverb to this track. Now let's see what it sounds like and how it expands when we add delay to the track. So I'm going to turn the reverb all the way up on this one. I have it on my insert here, and then on my on another insert, I have a 4th delay that I normally use that you can hear the delay pretty well. So let's hear without the delay, just the reverb.
Say you never did this before, girl. I know that you're lying.
All right, now let's hear it with the delay turned all the way up.
Say you never did this before, girl. I know that you're lying. You're lying.
See how it lingers a little bit after, along with the reverb and delay. If you just have the delay, it doesn't really give as much of a depth. Doesn't add much depth to the sound as it does when you layer it with reverb. Here, I can show you right here.
Say you never did this before, girl. I know that.
That's just the delay, which sounds great. It's repeating the words, but when you add the reverb and delay together.
Say you never did this before, girl. I know that you're lying. You're lying.
It just adds more. It has a tail to it. You can then, adjust your reverb and delay however you'd like. And, everything's still got to go with the mix. I turned them all the way up just so you could hear it for the sake of this video. But if I was to finish this mix, I would turn those down slightly in each one, listening to how it sits within the mix. So tip number 3, we're going to be using rhythmic delay, which means a delay in different quarter notes and eighth notes and just in different note signatures than the original delay to add more depth and space to the sound. Alright, so we're back in our DAW and I already have the delay, the quarter note delay set up on here with the full reverb. Now let's hear what it sounds like with just those two on again.
Say you never did this before, girl. I know that you're lying.
Now let's hear what it sounds like when we add a shorter delay to it to see what it sounds like layered up together.
Say you never did this before, girl, I know that you're lying. You're lying.
So it's adding a little bit more depth onto the delay itself, creating the whole entire vocal to sit more in front of the mix. A lot of times people think that you need to increase the gain on your track to get higher vocals or get more presence in the vocals, but a lot of times what it's missing is reverb and delay. All right, tip number 4 is use pre-delay to maintain clarity. Pre-delay is the gap between the dry vocal signal and the onset of the reverb effect. Adjusting the pre-delay can help maintain clarity in the vocals, especially when using longer reverb settings. A shorter pre-delay keeps the vocals more up front, while a longer pre-delay can create a sense of distance. And I'll show you that right here. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to grab a reverb for this one. I know it's pre-delay, but we're going to have a reverb with pre-delay on it. And what this is going to do is it's going to soften up the transitions between where the reverb is still echoing and when the next audible sound comes in. So here we have a pre-delay timer. I'm going to have it at a little bit of a higher time, and then I'm going to bring it down to exactly where I like it while I'm listening to the vocal. So here's it with it off.
Say you never did this before, girl, I know that you're lying.
All right, now here's with it on.
Say you never did this before, girl, I know that you're lying. You're lying. Say you never did this before, girl, I know that you're lying. You're lying.
See, with it on, the reverb doesn't get stuck and muddy up the next transient or the next sound that comes in. It actually gets cut off, and you can select what part gets cut off with the low cut or the high cut or the frequency finder right here in Ableton. Hopefully you have that in your DAW as well. All right, now tip number 5 is experiment with EQ and modulation. After applying reverb and delay, consider using EQ to shape the tonal character of the effects. High pass filtering can remove unwanted low frequencies like rumble from the reverb, while subtle boost can get the high frequencies and add air and sparkle to your sound. Modulation effects like chorus or flanger applied lightly to the reverb or delay can also add movement and depth to the vocals and or instrument, whichever one you're targeting in the mix. All right, so here we're going to show you how to adjust the frequencies on the reverb so that you can choose which parts are going to get highlighted and which parts are going to fade off. We can go right back to the same reverb we were using before. This one, luckily on Ableton, has a diffusion setting on it where you can do this inside the same reverb. So what I'm going to show you here is with it all the way up, allowing the high frequencies to come in, or the high frequencies to pass.
Say you never did this before, girl, I know that you're lying.
You see how it can be, kind of sounds a little crowded. We can go ahead and take some of that off.
Say you never did this before, girl, I know that you're lying. You're lying.
And so there you can hear it smoothed out the vocal, and the high end isn't coming in so heavy. Sometimes you want that high end, sometimes you don't, but in this case, it boosts the lower vocals, which were lacking, so it allowed more presence of the sound in its entirety by boosting the lower side. All right, and the bonus tip is to keep balance in the mix. Remember, the goal is to enhance the vocals and or instrument you're targeting with reverb or delay and complement the song's style without overwhelming the listener. Start with these tips and adjust the settings based on how they interact with your specific vocal track and overall mix. And lastly, we are going to show you how to keep the balance in the entire mix, and that's always by listening to it on solo.
Say you never did this before, girl, I know that you're lying. You're lying.
Right, so there we go. We adjusted the sounds that we like. Now let's listen to it all together in the mix and see how it sits and adjust it while we go.
Say you never did this before, girl, I know that you're lying. You're lying. Say you never did this before, girl, I know.
And now you just go back and forth over and over again till you hear it sounds right. To me, that sounds right now. I'll give you guys one more bonus tip. If you think you can't figure out if it sounds good or not and you've been working on it all day, it's great to take a break and just listen to it in the morning with fresh ears. Then I noticed I don't have any judgments on my sound, and I just get right to work, and I can figure out what's wrong and fix it right away. Alright guys, thanks for making it this far in the video. Feel free to leave a comment if you like something, if you didn't like something, if you want to tell me how your day is going, if you just think the sky is red and not blue. Just feel free to leave it down in the bottom of the comments, and I'll reply to you and we can get a chat going. I appreciate you guys. Let me know what you want to see in the next video or in next tutorials, and we'll see what we can do. Until next time.